My name's Natalia, and I am the Foster Care Connections Specialist here at the Fostering Connections team. So what we're going to be going through today is just a little bit about what we do at Fostering Connections, what foster care is, how you get involved with foster care, as well as answering any questions that you guys have, any frequently asked questions that we often come across, and busting some of the myths that are around foster care. It is our first live session of 2021, so bear with us while we navigate any technical difficulties or if there's any glitches, but we do plan on hosting these more regularly in the future, so feel free to keep an eye out and you'll be able to join us again if you want a little bit more. Today's information is going to be specifically about the Victorian foster care system. So if you are joining from somewhere else, it's likely that there will be some differences between the out-of-home care systems there, but feel free to still ask any questions. All right, so before we get started, I would like to start us off with an acknowledgement of country. So I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land on which we are all tuning in from today. I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Sovereignty was never ceded, always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Thank you. So in terms of Fostering Connections, we are Victoria's statewide foster care recruitment service. We're run by the Center of Excellence for Child and Family Welfare, which is a peak body for child and family services. And we provide support to people who are interested in becoming foster carers, whether you're just at the very start of your journey or if you've been thinking about it for a while, as well as just providing general information to the public to spread awareness about the wonderful work that foster carers do and how you can support children in our community. So anyone can go and visit our website, fosteringconnections.com.au, and you'll be able to look at all the different steps and the processes of becoming a carer in your own time. You can also submit an inquiry directly through our website, which will link you into an agency. You wouldn't have to do anything. They would then get in touch with you. Or you can call our Fostering Connections inquiry line and have a chat with myself. And the number for that is 1-800-013-088. And I think we can try to pop that link into the chat comments, possibly. A little bit about myself. I've worked in foster care for over 8 years across New South Wales and the last few years in Victoria. I've worked directly with children and young people who've been in care, children and young people that have been in residential care. I've worked closely with birth families, with amazing foster carers. And now at Fostering Connections, I'm hoping to assist anyone who wants a little bit more information and wants to learn a little bit more about foster care. So if you don't have any questions today, that's okay. You can always give us a call or submit an inquiry online and we can answer that for you. And we also have a downloadable information pack on our website if anyone wants that for their keeping. Okay, so what is foster care? So foster care in Victoria is the temporary care of children and young people by members who are accredited foster carers from the community, and they're trained and approved to care for children that cannot safely live at home. So children that are in foster care can be anywhere from the ages of 0 to 18, and they cannot live with their family members. So in most cases, when a child comes into care, the aim is always to reunify them with family. And as a foster carer, you can play a very significant role in that, providing them that stability and permanency while they are in your home with you until it's safe for them to return home. But in some instances, children do stay in care long-term until the age of 18. So we will be covering a little bit about the different types of care and what that can look like and how flexible fostering is if that's something you want to get involved with. Within Victoria specifically, back in 2019, there were over 11,000 children in the out-of-home care system, and over 1,500 of those were in foster care. And unfortunately, those numbers are increasing with the stats that we're seeing. I think we've already had a question. And so if you've always wanted to foster and you had a baby last year, do you need to wait until she's a certain age until you can foster? So I think the best thing would be to call myself and have a chat one-to-one, or just submit inquiries directly through our website and have a chat directly with the agency. Some agencies prefer your baby to be over 2 years of age, but other agencies have different policies around that, so we can explore that with you. The process to become accredited at the moment is taking 6 to 9 months following the aftermath of 2020. So if you want to get the ball rolling now, it's something that you can start exploring, get involved with, get all the information that you need, perhaps do some of the training, and then see if it's the right time to continue on. So it is quite flexible if you want to start exploring that now, and it is a lengthy process. So and depending on how old your baby is, you can move a little bit forward in that if you'd like. Hopefully that answered your question. We have another question. Can I foster children who are older? Older as in older than your own children? Or, children in care are anywhere from 0 to 18. So some carers choose to foster younger children, school-age children. Some carers have children of their own, so they wish to care for children that are either younger than them or a little bit older than their own children. I've worked with wonderful carers who just knew that their strengths were working with teenagers, and they supported a bunch of adolescents before they turned the age of 18, helping them prepare for adulthood, supporting them have those independent skills, and being able to do that. So you don't have to have that figured out this early on. The process does take a while. So when you get more information, when you do the training, when you start meeting one-to-one with the agency, you can then start thinking about, okay, what is this really going to look like in my household? And, what would be the best fit for us in terms of our lifestyle and our availability and our strengths and our skills, which ages would we be able to care for? And the agency does help you support that. We have a few more questions. Let's see. And the process can vary. So for some people, it can be less than 6 months. It really just depends on how quickly you can get into trainings and things like that, which is what I'll explain in a little bit. And yes, we've had a comment that the care has been extended to the age of 21. It has come into effect. So children do exit care at the age of 18, but they have a lot more supports now, which is wonderful. So for children who remain in their foster care home after the age of 18, that household still has further support. But at that point, they are a legal adult. So let's see. In terms of the children who are in foster care, so children that come into care are likely to have faced challenges, but they're also just like any other child. So being a foster care is just important that you approach them with an open heart and a willingness to understand their needs, because what we know is that children need one caring adult in their life to help them thrive and be supported and successful in the future. So that's a really great stepping stone, and a foster care can start that. So your role as a carer is to show them support, boundaries, guide them. Routine and consistency is key as a foster carer, and that will definitely be drilled into you during training. And being able to support them through different life stages and challenges. Being persistent and consistent is critical, and having that genuine passion and interest in being there for children and young people is really critical in that space. But the foster care agency is there with you every step of the way, and they will match placements with the right children and young people for you. So you always get a say in that, and I'll go into that a little bit further. So let's see, we've got a few more questions here. I think some of them have been answered in the chat. And anything that I am discussing today, you can also find in our information packet on our website. So if there's anything you really want to hang on to, feel free to grab that. In terms of who can become a carer, we're looking for carers from all ages, all backgrounds, all areas in Victoria. So whether you're single, in a relationship, if you're working full-time or not working at all, if you have a spare bedroom, you can make a really positive influence in a child's life, and you can have what it takes to become a carer. So, if you have a passion for supporting children from diverse backgrounds, and being able to, get to know about them, get to know their cultural and their traditions, welcoming a child into your own family traditions and culture, you can really make a beautiful impact in that space. So a lot of carers, they might be studying, they might be working, they might be retired, various religious and ethnic backgrounds. So none of that would impact your ability to be a carer. And I think, a couple months ago during Foster Care Week, we did a really beautiful interview with young people who had been in care, and they shared how special it was that their carer had taken the time to have a chat with them and learn about their cultural background and help them have traditional home-cooked meals at home, and how that made them feel really secure. So it is little things that you can do to support children. In terms of the process to become a carer, so essentially you go through our website, or you can have a chat with us and I can submit it for you over the phone. An agency will then give you a call within about 2 days. You wouldn't have to do anything. They'll have a chat with you, and then they will invite you to an information session. At the information session, you can get to know their team, you can get to know about their program, ask any general questions about your situation, and if at that stage you feel like you're ready to go ahead, you then move on to training. And just clarifying that across the state of Victoria, the process to become a carer is standardized. So you will have to do the information session, the training, and then the assessment, regardless of which agency you go with. And the training that will cover all the information that's foundational about what it takes to be a carer, what to expect when a child comes into your home, how to, how the out-of-home care system works, how to have practical skills in your toolkit to support the various needs that come with caring for a child that's in care, how to support birth family contact. So all of that is really, really covered in that training, and it allows you to then start thinking about, okay, this is what I think is the best fit for my household and how we can support a child. So then you have a better idea of what age range you're interested in caring for, whether you're interested in caring for siblings, or just a single child, whether you want to do care that's extended over a period of time for a few weeks, months, or years, or whether you just want to do something on the weekends. So I will go into depth about the different types of care as well. But once you've done that training, it really gives you that foundation to make some of those decisions when you move on to the next step, which is the assessment. And in the assessment is when you start talking to the agency one-to-one. They will come home and do a home visit to ensure that your environment is safe and secure for children and young people to live with you. And they'll be having chats with you and with your household. If you have children, they are involved in that process. So the agency worker will have a chat with them to see what their understanding of care is, and what that might look like when a child is in your home. And then they're able to work with you to identify what your preferences would be. And we have another question. So due to full-time work, is there any possibility of short-term care, like on weekends? So absolutely. So in terms of how long placements last, there are 4 main types of care. So the first one is respite, and a lot of new carers choose to start with this, or some agencies might even recommend that you start with this at the beginning of your care journey once you've been accredited, to help you get a feel of the system, get to know other carers, and get an idea of if it does really suit into your lifestyle as well. So that would be respite care, and respite could be having a child come to your home once a month for a weekend or school holidays. It could be the same child. So a lot of carers like to provide respite for a child that's in a long-term placement and still have a really beautiful relationship with the child, so that they know another very safe and healthy adult. So I worked with a boy who had a large sibling group, and he got to have a respite carer who would take him to different activities on the weekends. They got to do lots of different crafts. They went to exhibitions, they saw shows, and this kid loved it. He looked forward to this weekend so much, just to have that one-on-one time with someone that was a safe, kind, and caring adult, in addition to their care that they lived with, where they lived with their family, with their siblings. The second type of, or before I move on to emergency care, respite can also have a different child coming to your home. So if you just really are busy and your schedule, you just or better planning in advance, you can just have a weekend available for the agency to know, okay, you're available this weekend. These are the children that need placement. Can you support them? So that's also an option for respite. We then have emergency care, which is the opposite of respite. It is less planned. So that involves you getting a call last minute. It could be maybe 2 p.m. It could be 5 p.m. If you're open to it, it could be later in the evening saying that, this child has been removed or this child needs an urgent placement. What can you offer? And it could just be that night, and then they get picked up in the morning. It could be that you're like, okay, look, we can make it work from Wednesday night tonight until Monday morning so that they have the weekend for us. And that then allows the agency to, and child protection to identify a longer lasting placement for that child. You can still make a really significant impact as a respite care and as a emergency carer. So some children, for various reasons, don't have a stable placement. And then the emergency and the respite care will say, look, if they ever come back or if they ever need a placement, I'd be happy to take them back on again, even if it's just for a weekend. And at least for that short weekend, that child then has that sense of familiarity and safety. They don't have to create a whole new relationship with someone that they've never met before, or get to know a whole new layout of a house, or all the different things that come with that. So being available to take children on again after having them is also something that can really make a big difference in that child's life. The next type of care that we have is short-term care. And short-term care can be anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. And it's generally more common for children who do not have finalized court orders yet. So these children are still waiting for an outcome about whether they can be reunified, or a long-term placement has not been identified for them. Some short-term carers, as a carer, you might be accredited to provide multiple types of care. So you might be all the way from respite to long-term. So then you might have a short-term placement, and then you inform the agency, look, if this child needs long-term care, I'd be more than happy to do it. And then the agency can guide you through that. And then the final care that we have in Victoria is long-term care. And that is for children whose court orders have been finalized and they need to stay in care until the age of 18. So in that case, you would be supporting that child, through significant life stages, and they are part of your family. You get to support their birth family contact in the future with the agency and help them have that sense of stability and safety when they can't live at home long-term. We've had a question, can single carers be foster carers? Yeah, absolutely. So being a foster care is about being a safe adult in a child's life. So, and showing them a safe environment that they can live in. So that can, and we all know that, families look in all shapes and sizes. So being single or being in a household with children or being in a partnership, none of that would impact your ability to be a carer. We really welcome all carers from all walks of life to consider offering their home to a child. Any further questions before I move on? Nope. So I might jump into some of the myths of fostering. So sometimes people think that, as I described with long-term care, that a child has to live with you long-term for you to be a carer, and that's not true. So fostering is very flexible, and you can move through that during your time as an accredited carer. So I've worked with carers who, started off as respite, then they did a short-term placement for about 6 months. Then that child transitioned back to home or into a long-term placement. They went back to being a respite care for that child or providing emergency care for other children. Some carers start off with respite or emergency or short-term, and then they decide, I really want to be a long-term carer for this child. And then the agency can support them in doing that if it's the best fit in that situation. So it can really adjust for you and ebb and flow. So it is very flexible. We've had carers go on hold for a little bit when they've had their own children, and when their children are a little bit older, they come back and they start being carers. So it does really move with you and your lifestyle. In terms of whether you're working, you can be working full-time or part-time. Some children do need a carer who needs to be home full-time. So that's usually more often common for children who are babies or under the age of 5. But saying that, you can also receive support like childcare or before and after school care if you're working full time and children are school aged as well. So the agency does support you in identifying what your support would need to look like. And you can always change the type of care you provide depending on your lifestyle. So, I've worked with carers who started off, they weren't working for a while, so they were providing longer placements. And then when work got busier, they stepped back and started providing more respite. So it does really ebb and flow with you. You don't have to be in a relationship to care. You can be married, you can be single, you can be in a de facto relationship. You can be any sexuality, any gender, and any gender identity. So, bringing diverse experiences and backgrounds into your role as a carer can really support children while they're going through various experiences while they're in care. So we really do encourage all of that. You don't have to own your home. You don't have to have a large home. You could be renting. The main requirement is having a spare bedroom. And that is a bedroom that is solely there for that child. So foster care children cannot share a bedroom with your biological children. It cannot be a room that if you have, for example, you have shared care with your ex-partner of your own children and you want the foster care child to stay in your own child's bedroom while they're not there for the weekend, we wouldn't be recommending that. The goal is to have a safe and neutral space for that child so that they can feel safe and secure when they're in your home. Definitely siblings, though, can share a bedroom. But if you're looking at caring for siblings long-term, then thinking about what is this going to look like when they're teenagers and when they potentially want to have a bedroom that they don't want to share when they're a little bit older. So just thinking about the long-term of that, but siblings definitely can share bedrooms. And, when you are ready to have a chat and just explore further, the agency will also share what their policies are around bedrooms and things like that. Obviously, if you're caring for a baby, they can be in your bedroom at that time. But if it was a long-term placement for a baby, they would need their own spare room. So thinking about that. You don't need parenting experience to be a carer. So it's just about being supportive, empathetic, and providing stability for a child or young person. You do get a lot of training. So beyond the foundational training that you get during the recruitment process, you are expected to undertake ongoing training as a carer. And this can be personalized to your needs. So if you identify that you have a specific passion that you really want to get wrap your head around a lot more. Perhaps you want to care for children with a disability, or perhaps you want to upskill on cyber safety, so that you can be switched on with all the apps and things that are coming out for kids. Training is an ongoing thing. We do have to keep ensuring that we're providing the best care, and the way we do that is we keep learning to always try to improve the level of care that we're providing. So, and you are always supported along the way with the agency. In terms of having children in the home with you, you can have your own children and obviously children in the home. For some children, being in a family environment with other children is really wonderful for them. So the agency will always ensure that it's the best match. So once you have your accreditation and you have identified what you're being approved for, what your preferences are, then you will get all the information about a child prior to them coming into your home, and you always get to approve a placement. So you never have to say yes. What will happen is that the agency will get a referral for a child needing care. They identify you as a possibly great match for that child. They then call you and say, hey, this is the information we have a read through it, have a think, chat to the family. Is it the right fit for you? And you can then come back and say, actually, yeah, that's great. What more information can we have? Where do they go to how will we get them to and from school? What activities do they like to do? What's their favorite meal? Being able to get a little bit more information is totally great. And you can really make a difference for that child, even just finding something like what's their favorite dessert so they can have it that night when they come and stay with you. It can really help that child feel welcomed. Some carers put together a little booklet that the agency can share with the child prior to them coming, so then they can have an idea of who's in the home, so it's not a big surprise. So there are a lot of things you can do to have that child comfortable in the home with you. We have a comment from someone who has been caring for 13 years, and it's the most rewarding thing you will ever do. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, we really do appreciate the work that foster carers do. They really are everyday heroes, and you're doing some extraordinary things in the day-to-day events of a child's life. So thank you for that. Another myth that we want to bust is that fostering is not the same as adoption, fostering is the same as adoption is a myth. So adoption is where you become the permanent legal parent of a child or young person. As a foster carer, your intention is to care for a child for a fixed period of time with the common goal of wanting to reunify them to return to their birth family wherever that's possible. So a child in foster care's guardian is either the department or birth family, and that is defined by their court orders. So there is that separation with your role as a carer and as an adoptive parent. Another myth we want to bust is that children and young people in care are too challenging. Children and young people in care have experienced challenges. However, they're just like other children. It's critical that you approach fostering with an open heart and a willingness to understand what their needs are. We know that any sort of behavior is a form of communication. So your training is definitely going to support you in meeting their needs, as well as helping you understand their needs and ensure that they're able to thrive and feel safe moving forward. You also have your agency with you along the way. So whenever you have any challenges, a lot of carers develop really close relationships with their case managers. So they'll be able to call them and just, vent about something that happened or say, look, hear about this win that we had this morning. We were able to get out the door for school, with completely stress-free, and everything was great, and they ate their breakfast and it was awesome. So you do build a relationship with your agency, and they are a significant support to you, as well as thinking about your own natural support network. So that is something that you discuss during the assessment process before getting approved, about how your own support network will assist you in being the best carer that you can be. Any other questions at this stage? Okay. In terms of choosing the age of the child or young person who's placed with you, so like I mentioned before, you always get to have a say in terms of whether a child will come and stay with you. And we don't want you to, say yes to every placement because it's pulling on your heartstrings. That's a beautiful sentiment, but we actually need you to say yes to placements because it's the right time and the right fit for you. The worst thing, one of the worst things is, a child coming into a placement and that breaking down because of could have been prevented when it wasn't the right fit or if it wasn't the right time. So if you need to have a break and have a step back, or if the agency calls you and says, look, we've got this placement, we'd like to, if you would like to care for them, please let us know. And you say, look, I've got this crazy deadline at work. It's not actually the best time for me. Or you identify that you just need to have a little bit of a break for a bit, or you can only offer this set period of time, the agency will respect that. And they also have a duty of care to make sure that you're being looked after, because we need to make sure our carers are doing well so that they can care for the children. So you will get as much information as you can about the child. You get to read through everything that the agency has, and you can also, as I mentioned before, go back and ask questions. Sometimes there isn't a lot of information, so you might just have what we have, and the child had just recently been removed, and we still are learning about what their needs are or about what their routine was. And in those cases, carers, foster carers can be the eyes and ears and let the agency know, okay, you know what? Strawberries, favorite food. Or you can say, actually, when the TV was really loud, it kind of made them uncomfortable. So, let the next carer know that loud noises aren't ideal for this child. You can let them know whether they're very active or, whether they love certain things or certain things are a trigger for them, and that can further support their journey as they move through the out-of-home care system, because then people can know, okay, great, this is what we know, this is how the routine works smoothly, and this is how we can support this child. But yeah, when you get a referral, you'll get to know where they go to school, what their medical needs are, a routine if we have that available, their placement history. the reason why they're in care, and you will be given the family's details, knowing the contact arrangements and how to support them culturally. All this information is confidential, so you as a carer are holding that, but you do get everything that the agency has. And sometimes you're part of the process of gathering more information as things pop up that you learn about that child while you're caring for them. In terms of choosing the age or gender of children who are placed with you, so you do identify an age range or when you get accredited. That's something that you do in conjunction with the agency while you guys are discussing what is actually going to look best for your household. And that, takes into account your lifestyle, your availability, the household dynamics, what your own preferences are, whether you have the space to accommodate siblings or not. So that all gets discussed during the assessment, so that you can have that best fit. And that can change. So you can get accredited and then down the road, you're like, actually, you know what, we've been caring just for one child. We think we're ready to support siblings. And there is a very significant need to supporting siblings. As you can imagine, being a young child and being separated from your brother or your sister at a very young age and not getting to live with them, maybe only seeing them at school and maybe having to change schools. It is a very huge challenge and very heartbreaking. So for carers that are able to support siblings, there's a really strong need for that. So it's definitely something to consider. It also allows children to feel safe and secure, and relieve some of that stress about whether their sibling is safe. Some foster carers, when they have children of their own, wish to care for a child that is younger than their own child, or some identify caring for a child that is older than their own child. So it's all something that you can discuss with the agency, and as they get to know you through that assessment period, they'll also have their own recommendations that they'll discuss with you. And also knowing what your strengths are, or being open to figuring out what your strengths are. So maybe you identify, caring for school-age children would be the best fit. Or like I mentioned before, that couple that cared for teenagers and did really wonderful work supporting young people before they exited care. It's something that you can develop over time, and then you can really build on all those strengths. But being aware that the agency will always take the best matching at hand to ensure that the placement can be as successful as it is for yourself and for the children. Another question we often have come up is, if you're not an Australian resident or citizen, are you able to foster? So people who are, this doesn't affect New Zealand citizens, but if you are potentially on a work sponsorship visa, or you're a non-permanent resident, you can be able to provide care. However, it'll likely be that you will be accredited just to provide short-term emergency and respite care, due to the visa limitations and being unsure if you're staying in the country long-term. So it's definitely something to consider. And being on a visa would not exclude you from being able to become a carer. Do children in foster care have contact with their birth family? Absolutely, yes, they do. And as a carer, you can provide a lot of support to make that really special for a child and to help them feel safe and secure. So we know that when children are connected with their family, when they know in an age-appropriate way as to why they are in care and why they can't live at home, and that they can have that positive relationship with their family, they have much more positive outcomes. And your role as a carer is to support that. So a child, when they come into placement with you, they will have a contact schedule. You'll be able to know exactly when that's happening. The agency will work with you to support that going as smoothly as possible. And it could be something as little as letting the kid know that when they come home from contact, there's always going to be dinner on the table and that you guys will be able to have a chat, or that you're going to help them with their homework. Or maybe that it's you guys go out for an ice cream, always having a chat with the agency about what is the best fit to support that child in that situation. But there are a lot of different ways that you can support family contact. It could be buying a Mother's Day card so they can bring it to contact, or packing some snacks for them to bring to contact to share with their family. If they're in childcare, or if they've received any if they've done any nice projects that they can potentially share, or printing photos for family to have. Those are really great things that can support that relationship, but always having a chat with the agency before you go ahead and introduce some of those things. In terms of having a police record, will that impact your eligibility to be a carer? So all foster carers or foster care applicants undertake a police criminal records check, as well as a working with children's check as a part of the accreditation and assessment process. Even if you have a current working with children's check, or if you're a teacher and you have an exemption for that, you will still need to do a volunteer one and change and add the foster care agency as a agency under your check. If you do have a previous criminal record, it's important to disclose that to the agency and be really transparent about what the offense was, what that looked like, how that impacted you, how it might impact your role, and then you and the agency can work through about how to move best forward. So, having a record wouldn't necessarily disqualify you from becoming a carer. And that's why it's really important to just be really honest and transparent as you're going through that process with the agency. Other questions that we have. Receiving financial reimbursement as a carer. So you do not receive a payment for being a carer. However, you do receive a care allowance, and the intention of that is to support the day-to-day financial needs that occur when you're caring for a child. So these would cover them being in your home, food, clothing, transport, pocket money, entertainment. It's not an income, so it is tax-free, and it is provided by the department. And you can find all the rates to the foster care allowance if you Google DHS foster care allowance. So the starting care allowance rate is $400 per fortnight, and that changes depending on the children's ages and their needs. If you need additional support, that's something you can also discuss with the agency, like supporting childcare. All children do get the childcare rebate that are in care. So carers do get to apply for that. And then there is a gap that will be explored with the agency. So you can definitely explore that further with them. Other questions that often come up are, can you care when you have a disability? So having a disability would not disqualify you from being a carer. It's just important that you have a chat with the agency about what your health needs are and how that impacts your ability to care. So once again, being honest and transparent to ensure that you have the best level of support possible to support the children that come into your care. Any other questions at this stage? We've been going for about 40 minutes. Anything anyone wants me to specifically discuss? No, that's okay. Another question we often get is, do people in my household have to attend training? So anyone that's over the age of 18 is recommended to attend shared lives training, and that's something you can discuss with your agency as you go through that process. And some carers even have older children that they want to have attend the training with them. So have a chat with the agency about which days would be the best fit in that case for them to be a part of that, because it can really support them as they are going to be exposed to children in care. We've had another question. So if a single parent is dating, would their partner need to do the training and have a working with children's check? So if it's someone that's going to be often involved in this child's life, so they would need to do all the relevant checks. So in that case, you would be having a discussion with the agency about how they would be introducing, how you would be introducing your partner to that child and what sort of role they would have with them. And yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Definitely happy to chat more about it. So we might start wrapping up now. If you have any further questions, please feel free to give me a call or give us a call at Fostering Connections. It's 1-800-013-088. You can also go on our website and have a read through our information packs, and we've got a couple of blog posts up there and different post that can provide you a little bit more information. We will be hosting more of these in the future, so keep an eye out. And just also wanting to take a moment to shout out the wonderful work that carers do. Being a carer, you really are a part of a village, and you can make a really significant difference in a child's life. Agencies are definitely still prioritizing recruitment during COVID-19. So, some things might be online instead of face-to-face, and that's a rapidly changing space. So happy to answer any questions about that if you're interested in hearing how that looks differently. But as a carer, you can make such a significant difference in a child's life. So if that's something you're interested in pursuing now, or something that you're thinking about down the road, feel free to have a chat with us, and we'll be able to support you with that. So thank you so much for your time today. It has been wonderful. Thank you for asking some great questions, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you.